Just overall thoughts coming off of that friendly.
Tough game, good pre-season friendly, competitive game. I felt we improved from the first half to the second, so I was pleased with the players. We made a couple of adaptations at half time. We spoke through a couple of pieces of the game that credit to Vegas, they played well in the first half. And at half time we made a couple of adjustments, and I thought second half the players reacted to that very well. So I thought the game got stronger as we went forwards, and it's another really good pre-season test for us. And it's another very competitive game, and being a couple of weeks now from the first game, that's exactly the sort of game and exactly the sort of test that we need.
We saw Darius out there in a different kind of role, not playing as a 9. Is that maybe how you envisage him playing in the role that he played in today?
Darius has the ability to play in a few roles for us. Darius is a player that is comfortable in wide areas, comfortable in central areas, both higher up the field and maybe as a 10 for us. At the moment, I'm not going to speak too much about how we'll look moving forwards. But as far as Darius goes, Darius is a big player for us, and Darius has, like I say, good ability to play in different areas, different roles in the team, and give us different things depending on the game that we're playing. So, he's an important piece for us moving forward.
Where are the players at with the legs as a squad? I mean, first 11 comes out here, gets 70+ minutes. Where are you at with your feelings around the fitness so far?
Honestly, I think pretty good. We're now, like I say, still 2 weeks from the start of the season. Everybody really got 80 minutes in them tonight, which was good. I think with a couple of weeks left, that's a good place to be. So physically, I think the players are in a good spot. We've kept working them hard in training. So always when we get to these preseason games, there's typically a little more already in the legs than perhaps there would be during the season. So this is something that in preseason, that physical adaptation is obviously a big part of what we do. So we push hard in training. We load the minutes in the games as well, and I think to get to 80 minutes for everybody there today was an excellent run out.
Any of the group with injuries or illness that's kind of lagging behind that you're wanting to try and get up to speed?
Well, we have a couple of normal knocks from pre-season, which is always the case and unavoidable, honestly, in a 7-8 week pre-season. A huge positive for us tonight is getting John Stenberg, I think, back on the field. So that's a great step in the right direction for him personally, for the team as a whole. So we have a lot more positives physically than we do negatives right now. I would say they're normal situations in pre-season, and nothing that is particularly long-lasting or concerning moving forward.
You mentioned John there. Obviously, when he came on, the armband's handed to him. Is that maybe a sign of things to come?
Maybe a sign of things to come. But John is a leader in the team anyway, and more than an armband on his sleeve tonight, having his presence back on the field, having his quality back on the field, and just reintroducing him to a competitive game, which he's unfortunately not quite been able to get to before this point. But everything we do with him now, we look forwards on this, and we have a long season ahead of ourselves. So for him individually, it's been a gradual build through the preseason so far, deliberately. He's been very, very keen to get back out onto the field, of course, and 15 minutes for him tonight was a good start. And I think, like I say, the biggest positive to that is that you get a real good presence and a leader in the group back in amongst the team.
Obviously, Rocco had a much shorter off-season than some of the other players,
Yep.
with all the stuff he's been doing with the national team.
Yeah.
How are you guys planning on managing that, especially given he played today?
Yeah. As far as his minutes go and his rhythm, Rocco is kept training. Rocco has kept playing, like you say, when others haven't. So he's had a few days before he came back into Phoenix to relax, to spend some time with family, which is also a big part of the off-season that most of the players had the opportunity to do. I think for Rocco, he's not a player that wants to sit around and be inactive for very long. So for him, it's a good time right now, I think, with a couple of weeks left to get him back on the field, and we move a little quicker with him, obviously, given his situation through the off-season. So he doesn't necessarily need the gradual build that the rest of them have had. But he's had those breaks, and we'll continue to manage him from a physical point of view, and I think for Rocco as well, from a mental point of view as well, just to give him those down days and just to give him that relief time from a mental perspective. But since he's been back in the group, he's been very fresh with his personality. He's been very fresh around the group from an adding to the environment. So I don't have a lot of concerns with him. I think he's one that will reintegrate very quickly.
Danny, two questions for you. So you went to high school around here for about a year, maybe 2 years. How do you plan to utilize your local roots and connection to the community to engage fans and further support the team this season?
Yeah, well, it's something that I've touched on a little bit now since the beginning of pre-season. I have a 25 plus year history with the city of Phoenix, and from my personal perspective, I feel very tied to the city as well as the club. I have a lot of personal connections through friendships that are now 25 years old for me. And so as far as ties to the community, I have that personally. And I feel very strongly about supporting the city of Phoenix as well as obviously supporting the club Phoenix Rising. So I'm looking forward to getting more involved with that and more integrated into the community. And the fans are going to continue and always will be a huge part of what we do here. I'm part of pre-season. Our conversations may be a little more behind the scenes as to how we can integrate the club more within the community, and that's players, that's staff, that's the club as a whole. And it's something I'm very passionate about. My background as well, where I'm from, is people and city and family and passion for sport and passion for a football club in Liverpool, where I'm from. It's a huge piece of my upbringing, and for me that is it's very, very close to home and a special piece of my heart in terms of how I approach the game from a passion point of view. So connection to the fans is very, very high up on the list of priorities.
Definitely. So how do you think you'll balance the responsibilities of being a head coach and a role model for younger players in the community who look up to you now into this position as head coach?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I've spent many years in my coaching career so far working with young players. So for me, from a coaching point of view, it's something that I've spent a lot of time honing my craft by working with youth players, by working with youth clubs, by working with academies all around the country. So from a soccer point of view, again, it's another piece of my background that is a big passion project for me. Is when young players are growing up and developing, we hope a huge love for the game, and we hope that is on the field, we hope that is off the field, and we hope that they are both young players who take part in youth sport and youth soccer, and then also come and watch professional players play. And from an aspiration point of view, that guidance from where they start to where they hope to get to one day is a real fun journey to be part of. And I know we have a lot of excellent coaches, a lot of high level people that do a lot of great things for youth soccer players connected to the Phoenix Rising Youth Club as well. So my part in that is to guide from the top down, essentially. And it's something that you'll see a lot of passion for me involved with the youth club and involved with any young player that comes into their first steps of a professional career, of which we have a couple this year, and that's it's a very, very fun project to be part of.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, you're welcome.
In a couple of weeks, how do you think that with the preseason, what type of changes do you think you'll be making to be strong enough for game one?
I mean, we'll, as we do after every game, we'll go and evaluate how this weekend has looked, and we'll put plans in place for training next week with a view to the games that we have on Friday next week coming up. As far as the start of the season, this will be something that we'll keep looking at combinations of players perhaps in the next couple of weeks. But at some point we'll get into a rhythm where we look at that first game of the season and we start to try and give consistency to players playing together as well. Pre-season typically is of course a time where lots of different players will play together in different lineups, different teams, different combinations on the field. And so obviously as we get towards the start of the season, we start to look for a little bit more consistency and develop those patterns and those relationships so that players have a good feel for each other when they play together. And this is, again, pre-season is a very different time to any other point once the actual real season begins. And there's a lot of experimentation, there's a lot of assessment, there's a lot of trying things and then evaluation of what we've tried, and we come to different conclusions. And now the job is to start looking very much forward to that first game of the season and put pieces in place that we feel will be strong for us to start the season and go from there.